when you played this, I mean, like I didn't give you any kind of like action, right? Like I just said, here's money, go invest, right? What was your first reaction? Like, what did you do? You just clicked buttons. Yeah? What else? Like, did you figure out some things as you were going along? Kind of. Yeah. Okay, so leaderboard. Look at how much people were making in 20 years by just investing. They didn't work. They took money and then just put it in towards something, right? Okay. Like I said, back in August, I invested 500. Now I'm at 800. I didn't do any work. It's 2 months. Yeah. So it's nice. It can be beneficial. But if you invest into stocks, sometimes those stocks make you lose money. You can go in the negative, right? And that's a problem. Okay. So with that being said, that moves into our stuff for today. Um, what words came up? Like what was a CD? Not like a disc. What it's a CD? Right. Certificate of deposit. That's gonna come back up. All right, go to lunch. When we get back, we're gonna start on notes. Oh, you do have a quiz on Thursday. Something to keep in mind. It's over the stuff we're learning today and stuff we're learning tomorrow. Okay, so that'll be your first thing. All right, so we're going to talk about the 80-20 principle. So we can state the 80-20 principle. We're going to state real world application of the 80-20 principle, apply it, and then state personal application. So we're going to watch this little video about what the 80-20 principle actually is. After, of course, we watch a lovely commercial. Gotta love it. Okay. I didn't want to go that far. Okay, try this again. Think about it. How many best friends do you have in the world? Don't say just one. You liars. How many people do you call your best friend? Like best friend. How y'all do it? It's like 20% of your friend group. So how many friends do you have in total? Multiply that by 0.2. That's normally how many you only got. You got two friends? Okay. So how many are like best friends though? Oh, okay, fine. But the best friend gives you the 80% of enjoyment. Okay, cool. Cool. This guy is like real, he's got his life together. It's like, I do not do that. I have a full closet and I've worn basically the same clothes for the past like while. Anybody else? Just me. You wear the same five t-shirts. I see y'all in the same thing every week. I'm gonna start making y'all take pictures of yourselves while you come in. All right. So respectfully, of course. All right. So 80-20 rule. All right. So this means that 80% of the outcomes, 80% of outcomes or outputs, that's another way to say it. I love when this thing doesn't it. Okay. Result from 20% of causes. What are three other names for the 80-20 principle rule? This is going to be Pareto principle. That's the guy who found it. And then law of vital few. And then principle of factor sparsity or sparsity, depending on where you're from. So do the numbers always add up to equal 100? No. It's kind of like in Pirates of the Caribbean where he's like, you got to follow like parlay. And the guy's like, no, those are more like guidelines. This 80-20 rule is really more of a guideline. It's not always necessarily the truest thing. Okay. This little picture up at the front, at the top, 20% of the causes cause 80% of the effect. 80% of the causes cause 80% of the causes create 20% of the effect. That makes sense? Okay. And we're going to see more examples of this in just a second. Okay. All right. What are three applications of the 80-20 principle in everyday life? These are real fun, I promise. All right. So in business, in investments, and then in agriculture. The word fractal means never ending. Okay. And that's going to work. We're going to see that in just a second. All right, so what does it mean when we say that 80-20 principle is fractal? That means, so bear with me on this because it's going to be a little bit of a tongue twister. 20% of the 20% of the activity, bless you, produces 80% of 80%. I know that sounds stupid. Of your outcomes. Okay, so 20% of the 20% of activity produces 80% of the 80% of outcomes. Here's how this works. So if you take 20 and you find 20%, how much is that? 4. You see the number that's right here? Then if you take 80 and you multiply by 80% or 0.8, what do you get? 64. Does that make sense? So if you take 20 and you multiply it by 0.2, that's going to give you 4. If you take 80 and you multiply it by 0.8, you're going to get 64. Okay, so you could continue this pattern in order to help you out with deciding whether or not something is worthwhile. Okay, again, biggest thing is just know what the 80-20 principle is. That 20% of your, 80% of the outcomes are caused by 20% of the inputs. That's all I need you to know right now. Okay, so 3 positive beneficial examples would be that 80% of software glitches are caused by 20% of the bugs. All right. A really positive one that oftentimes is brought up when we talk about debates and like politicians. So 80% of crimes are caused by 20% criminals. I can't write on this thing for some reason today. Criminals. 80% of all crimes are caused by 20% of the criminals. Okay, that's really kind of looking at your repeat offenders, right? This one is probably the most relatable. 80% of your stress is caused by 20% of your problems. Like, can you pinpoint where your stress comes from? That's 20% of your problems. Roughly. Guidelines, you know? All right. Then 3 negative examples. All right. So these are bad things. If I were to be crazy and do 80% of the points on your test, 80% of points on a test come from 20% of the problems. So let's just say I lost my mind and 20% of the test weighed 80% of your grade. That would be horrible. That would be not so great. Okay. Another bad thing, 80% of wealth is owned by 20% of the population. Okay. Last example on this is 80% of investment gains is caused by 20% of stock. Okay, go ahead and look at the chart below. These are the top 50 movies of 2016. Where were you in 2016? What age were you? So that would have been 8 years ago. So take your age, subtract 8. Okay, so like 8, 9, 10, depending on where your birthday is, right? Yeah. 8 years ago? 8 years ago? It would be 8, 9. Okay. So y'all would be 9, 10-ish, depending on your age. Okay. So in 2016, these were the top movies. Do y'all remember Finding Dory or Zootopia? Trolls. The first Trolls movie came out. La La Land came out. Tarzan, the like not animated one, not the animated one, the real life one. The Conjuring 2. Uh, was Moana on there? What? Oh yeah, it is. There it is. Sing came out. I remember that one. Um, have y'all ever seen what was it? Storks came out that year. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I didn't see that one either. Kung Fu Panda 3. Yeah, this is a good year, right? Hidden Figures came out that year. Oh my gosh, I've seen that movie way too many times. Okay, so my point being, do you see on the side where it says top 1%, top 4%, top 20%? Okay, so there's 50 movies, right? The top 20% is the top 10 movies. Do we see how I got that? There's 50 movies, and we want the top 20%. That's going to be multiplied by 0.2, and that'll give me 10. Okay? So go ahead and look at this little chart right here. Okay? You're going to do a little bit of flipping. I apologize. So we are going to find the amount percentage of the total. Okay, so on our table, down at the bottom, they have a total. And the total is 8279.30. And what they want us to figure out is the amount percentage of the total. Okay, so y'all saw like how much they grossed. So really quick, Star Wars movie that came out grossed $532 million. Okay, everybody got that? So when I want to look at the top 20%, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this column, so top 20%, this column that added up all of these gross for us, and I'm going to divide it by the total that I got. Okay, so again, here's the number, here's the total, and I want to multiply that by 100. Okay, so I'm going to look down here. And so I'm going to take 3,789.2, and I'm going to divide it by that 8,279. 8,279.3. And that percentage is going to be 45.77%. Think about this. Does that hit your 80-20? Is that 80% of the outcome with top 20%? No, it's not. Okay, so again, remember 80-20 rule is just guidelines. What I want you to do is use your table, and I want you to find the percentages for each one. So for the second 20%, how much is that? 1,809.6 And we're going to divide it by our total. And that's going to give us 21.86%. Can you do the rest of these? I'm going to give you a minute. Okay. Okay. So these are the percentages that I got. So 13.70, 10.38, 8.29, 12.30, 1.54, 6.43, and 0.76. Okay. So, yep. Top 4%. 1230. Yeah, 1230. Okay. So is the top 20% of movies exactly equal to 80% of the overall gross revenue? So is this number, this 45, equal to 80? No. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so is the top 20? No. The way we got that ratio is we took 3,700, oh Lord, 3,000, like, I'm trying, and it's like not getting it together. We're doing great. We're winning at life. We should have canceled school. It's fine. Like, why? There's no reason. Just because I said so. It's a Tuesday. Taco Tuesday. Bro. Okay, so 3,789.2, and we're going to divide it by 8,279.3, and we got 45.77%. So it doesn't always equal 80, okay? Now compare the top 20% to the bottom 20%. So the top 20% was 3,789.2. We're going to divide that by the 686.6. Okay. And that's going to give us 5.5. What this means is that the top 20% produced 5.5 times more than the bottom 20%. Okay. Mm-hmm. That came from the table. So that ratio was 5.5. And is it a big of a difference? Well, if we subtract these two numbers, that gives us a difference of 3,102.6. And remember, this is in millions. According to our table, we were talking about this in millions. So yes, there's a big difference. Is the top 4% of the movies exactly equal to 64% of the overall gross revenue? So this could follow that pattern that we were talking about earlier with the little table with the 4 and 64. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take 1,018.5 and we're going to divide it by 127.4. And that gives us about 8. Nope, JK. Nobody corrected me. Thanks, guys. So that's going to give us 8,279 plus 10.3. So that's going to give us 12.30. There we go. Is that equal to 64%? No. So it's really not following the 80-20 rule. That makes sense? All right, so what is the ratio between the top 4% and the bottom 4%? Nope, JK. Compare the top 4% to the bottom 4%. What is the ratio on this one? So on number 6, we're going to say 1018.5 divided by 127.5. That's going to give us a difference of about 8. If we subtracted them, that's going to give us a difference of 891.1 million. And then the last question is the top 1% of movies exactly equal to 50% of the overall gross revenue? The answer is no. And the way we see that is we take 532.2 and we divided it by 8,279.3, and that gives me 6.43%. Okay, I know that's a lot of numbers. Here's the reason why we did all of that mess. Okay, so let's say that you are the movie theater manager, and at movie theaters, they get to pick which movies they want to show at whatever place they're at. Okay, if you're looking at this, would you only focus on the predicted top 20% of movies? Now think about it. Top 20% of the movies, only 45% was coming from that gross income, right? So would you only focus on the top 20? I personally wouldn't. Yeah? Okay, so if you only focus on the top 20%, then you would miss out on a lot of money. Okay, so the answer is no, since top 20 is responsible for 45.77% of revenue. Okay. Questions? All right, let's look at number 9. So suppose you had 20 shirts in your closet. 80-20 rule suggests that if you wear 20% of your shirts 80% of the time, how many shirts would be in your closet? So you have 20 shirts in your closet right now, but you only wear 20% of those shirts. How many shirts you got? Can you try number 10? When you did this, if you have 43 customers, how many customers should you pay attention to? How many? Like 8.6, right? So we're going to say about 9 customers. Can you talk to all 43 customers that are coming through the door at the same time? No. So you could prioritize them and give them your best sales pitch, right? Okay. Do you want to try the investment thing again? No? Did you say no? Girl. Okay, well then I'm going to go ahead and give y'all the Adulting 101 project, because what you're going to do is you are going to